Welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about template inheritance. The template inheritance is like making a blueprint for your web page. So what you exactly do is you create a main template with some common parts such as you can create headers, you create footers, and then you make your other pages or your templates that look exactly like your main templates. So means you make other template that use this main template as the base template. This way, you only have to change the common parts in one place, hence making it easier to manage your website's design. Normally, we see that any website that you visit, generally it has the very common interface. Common interface means like if you click on home page, let's say you click on about us page or contact us page, the actual layout remains the same, but only the content changes. So that thing is called as template inheritance in Django. So let's try to implement this. For better understanding, let's have a look here. You can see that we are having a navigation bar consisting of these three menus. So whenever you click on any of the menu, only this content will change while the rest of the layout will remain the same. For simplicity, we are taking a very basic template at this point. So when you click on home page, this content will appear. When you click on this menu, it will show this is about page. And when you click on this menu, it will show us different items, different food items, and along with their prices. Let's try to implement this kind of example now. Let's create one file with the name header.html, and within this you have to write down the code for the navigation bar. You can create any kind of navigation bar. It can be bootstrap navigation bar or it can be a CSS navigation bar. Right now I'm creating a CSS navigation bar. I'm already having the code for this, which I have pasted over here. Next is we have to create three different files with name home.html. Then next we are going to create another file with the name about.html. And the last one we'll be creating is, let's say, menu items.html. Now within these three files will come the actual content of the page. But we will have to see that how this template, how this particular HTML file will render only the content which is to be shown on this particular page, while the rest of the design should be inherited from the base template. Till now we don't have a base template, so yes, we have to now create one base template as well, that is base.html. Rename the file base.html. Right. Now let's create the basic template in this base.html file. Our basic HTML template is now created. I'm deleting this for simplicity. Now try to think about the things that your page has to inherit from this base.html. So the things that it will inherit is, it can be title, it can be styling or CSS, and the next part is it has to render its own content, but by taking into consideration this base template. So within the head tag, you have to use the title tag. Use the title tag, and within this we will be using the template tags. So we will be using the template tags in the form of blocks. You have to use the start block and the end block. So this is our start block and the second one will be our end block. Now you want to inherit the title from this base template. You will be using the template tag as block title, and you also have to end this block. You have to write here end block. Means that any of these files which are available here, which has to show some content to the user, will now be capable of inheriting their own title. Means it has to inherit the title tag but will be able to show its own title. I'm repeating, any HTML file that is here, any of these HTML files which is supposed to show some content to the user will now be able to inherit the title tag from this base template and will be able to show its own title. Now that title we will be writing in the actual HTML file and not in the base template. In the base template, we will be just specifying the template tags in the form of blocks. Now next thing that it can inherit is the style. So we have to put the style tag as well. Now within this, we will have to use another block that is for the style. So right now I'll just change here CSS, block CSS and end block. So now any of these files which is capable of showing some content to the user, home, about, menu items, will now be able to inherit the style tag from the base template but will be able to show its own style on the web page. Now let's come to the body where the actual content should be shown. Now within this, we again have to use the template tag. Now this time we will be using block as content. Now it will be able to render the content. The base template is no doubt ready, but still we have not used this header.html file, that is the actual navigation bar. Now it is up to you whether you want to use this, the complete code of header.html within the base.html. But if you want to keep it separate, then you can use it as an external file. So for this, before the block content, you have to include this header file. That is header.html. You have to use include template tag and use the name of the file header.html. Now next step will be that all of your HTML files should be able to render some content and should be able to inherit the template tags from base.html. Now come to home.html, within which you have to first of all inherit from the base template. For this, you have to use the template tags and use extends. Extends from which file? You have to extend, that is, you have to inherit from the base.html. So now you have inherited from base.html. Now after this, you will be able to inherit the template tags using the same template tags, that is block title. Now within this block title, you will have to write down the actual title. You must take care that there are no spaces. Let's say if you are not using any space here, then it might create some error. So it's better to put a space here, and you have to also end this block, end block, and within this write down the actual title. I'll write here home page. Now it will show you home page within the tab in the browser. Now after this, next is that you have to inherit the CSS. So use the template tag as block CSS and end this block and ensure that you write down the CSS that you want to see. So within this, let's say I want an h1 tag that has to be shown inside the content. Right now I'm just putting color as red. Let's say I want the h1 tag to be red in color. Now since I have used some styling for h1 tag, so it means I should be having an h1 tag within the content. Now let's come here and write down some content by using block content. By using block content and end this block content using end block. Right. Now within this you have to write in the actual content, and that actual content is h1 tag. I'll be simply using an h1 tag that this is our home page. Right, so our home page is now ready. The same way now you can prepare your other two files. So let's copy this code and paste it within about.html and just change the content. This is our about us page. And if you want, you can change the color here just to know that your web page works properly. Right, so here also we are going to change the title to about page. Right, and same way you can now come to menu items.html and write here menu items page, and you can change the color, let's say to black, and this is our menu items page. So all now you have to do is prepare the URL and the function. So let's come inside the function and define home pass request parameter, and you just have to return render first parameter request, second parameter will be your file that is home.html. So our function is ready. In the same way you can prepare your about.html. You can have about and render about.html. Let's have a look if we have any other function with the same name. So if we have any other function with the same name, we can replace. Right, so we have about function already existing, and we also have another function called as home which is already existing. Okay, so we can do one thing, we can change the name. Let's have home1, and here we can have about1. Right, and now let's come to urls.py and define our paths. So we can copy this old piece of code and just paste the path over here and change the, let's say I'm changing this to home1, and let's see if we already have any other URL having home1. Okay, so there's no other URL having home1, so means we can use this home1 as the URL for our current example. Views dot and the name of the function is home1, and here we need about1. Here also we need about1. Let's have a look at the execution. So no errors. Let's check the result. Let's try. If I write here home1, you can see that we are able to, let me zoom in, we are able to render this. So as of now it is able to render home, and if I write here about1, okay, so my URL is incorrect. I have to write 8000/about1. Okay, I think there seems some problem. All right, so I have to change the name of the function because there is already one function which is having about1 as the name most probably, or if not the function, then let's come to URLs. So inside the URLs we are, so there doesn't seem to be any problem right now about1. Okay, so this is the problem here, we forgot to use the slash, and now let's once again check for the execution. No error. Right, so you can see that we are able to render our both the pages, that is home as well as about. But when you are clicking over here, it doesn't work. When you're clicking on this, it doesn't work. You're clicking on this, it doesn't work. It's not showing the actual web page. It's not rendering the actual content. Although your layout is being the same, but that layout is being shown only when you are going to that specific URL. Let's say now you are going to menu items. Okay, there might be some other problem in this URL. We can check it out. So, okay, we have not yet defined it. Let's define it first. We will write here menu items, and we just wish that it works. Menu items. Let's check the views. Right now we are not having any function which is showing us menu items page. So we will write here menu items. Menu items. Right, and here also we will write menu items. Right, let's check for the result. Okay, it works. But when we are clicking on the links, then we have to make it work. It means that these hyperlinks are not yet interlinked. In order to make these hyperlinks function, you must ensure that you specify the hyperreference within the anchor tag inside header.html. For this, come to urls.py and you have to specify a name for your every URL that you are specifying. So name is the third parameter, which is generally an optional parameter within the path function. So till now we have not discussed about the name parameter, but right now we are discussing because we need to use this name parameter inside our header.html. We will be using this name as a reference to this path. And let's come to the next one. We will specify the name here as well. Let it be about one. One more important thing, that name and the URL need not to be the same. They can be different. But for simplicity, we are taking the same menu items. Now, we have specified the three parameters as the third parameter within the path function of these three URLs. Now, we have to come to the header.html and we have to specify here the path. For this, you have to use the template tag within the href attribute, use percentage symbols, and you have to use this time URL. So what is the name that you specified for the home page? The name we specified was home1. So we can copy this syntax and just specify the name everywhere. For about, we used about1, while for the menu items, we used menu items. Right. So hopefully it should work. Let's check for the errors. No errors. Let's check the result. So right now we are on menu items. Let's say if I'm clicking on home, yes, this is working. This is our home page. When I'm clicking on about, this is our about us page. When I'm clicking on menu, it is showing this is our menu items page. So this is what template inheritance is. The general layout remains the same, but only the content is changing. Now our next part is that whenever the user clicks on this menu option, the user should be able to see the different items available. For this, we need some data within our views.py. So as a demonstration, you have to first of all come to the views.py and define some data. So right now I have taken one list called as items, which is a list of various dictionaries. Now all these dictionaries are having key and value pairs. The key and value pairs involve name, cost, and the details. We will be using this data so that we can fetch it on the web page. For now, we'll be fetching the name of the item and the cost of the item. Now, since the data is involved, we have to pass a third parameter within this function. The third parameter will be passed as a dictionary. So, since we are having a list here, but the third parameter should be a dictionary. So, we have to ensure that we pass the key and value pair within the curly braces. We have a key called as items. We can put anything here. The value for this key is items. Now this items is actually this list that we have created. So this list is actually a global list which will be accessed by every function in this views.py. For simplicity, we are creating it as a global list, but you can consider it inside the function as well. But that time it will be a different procedure in order to fetch the data. Now let's come to menu items.html and create one table where we will be creating a row. Within this row, we will create two columns, within which the first column we will be fetching the name of the item, and the second one we will be fetching the cost of the item. Now, if you remember, we already have covered the template tags where we use the for loop so that we could traverse through the number of items, means more than one item. So let's use the template tag. We have to use for item, a particular item, in what is the name of that dictionary? It's items. And we also have to end this for loop. Use the template tags, use end for. Now, how to fetch the data here? We have to use curly braces. So for a single item, that is for single item, we have to use item dot. So when you come to this views, you see that the key being used is name and another key being used is cost. So we have to use name and cost. Means we will be using item dot name and item dot cost. Item dot cost. Okay, so it seems fine for now. Let's check the result. So when we are clicking on this menu page, you see that we are getting this data. Right now the data is not styled, so we can use some CSS. Within the CSS block, you can style your table by using the table tag. You can use the width as 100%. And if you want, you can change the font size as well. Like any kind of styling you can use, that is totally up to you. 30 pixel. Okay, let's check once again that how our data looks like. Let's refresh. Okay, nice. We are not having a border at this point, so we can include a border as well. Just a simple border. Border equals to, let's say it's 2. Seems fine. Let's check once again. Okay, so that looks pretty much better. Now, what will be our next part? The next part will be that whenever we click on this particular item, we should be taken to another page where the details related to the same item is available. So let's check that how we can do it. We will be creating one function where we have to check if the item clicked matches with the item name inside the list. So let's create another function with the name menu items. I'll be taking menu items 1. Pass the parameter request, and now we will be taking one empty dictionary, let's say whose name is single item. I'm taking an empty dictionary with the name single item. I'll be now using for loop in order to check if the item clicked matches with the name of the item, which is specified here within the dictionary inside the list. So let's use the for loop. We'll be using for food in what is the name of our list. The list name is here items. So we want to traverse through this list items, and within this we have to use a condition that if food of name. So the index that we want to use here is name. If food of name is double equal to the item that we want to find, then so we have to use colon as well so that it has an indentation. So if you are able to find out that item, then we will be assigning food to the single item. We have to assign food variable to the single item. Right, and then break from this loop. And finally, after this, we have to use break and right. So we have to now assign, we have to create a dictionary within which we will be using a key and value pair as item, whose value will be assigned as single item. Now, why we are creating this dictionary? Because we have to pass this dictionary as a third parameter while we are rendering our page. So we have to also return and render request, and here we have to render our HTML file. So that HTML file is not yet created, so we will be creating that one now. For now, we can pass the third parameter, that is the data. We also need to create a path now where we have to specify the parameter within the URL. We'll be using menu items slash, and this time we have to pass the parameter. The parameter, let's say we are taking name as item. So this is the parameter that will be passed when the user will be clicking on that specific item. Let's call the function, the name of the function is menu items 1. So let's create the name also. Name will be menu items 1. Menu items 1. Let's say if you find that the functions are already existing within views.py, as we can see that already we have created in the beginning some other functions with the same name as menu items, and we are having menu items 1, menu items 2. So for now you can comment out these codes if required, because there might be some contradictions later. So I am commenting all these codes at this point. I'm commenting menu items 1. These codes are actually our very previous codes when we started with this course. So right now I'm commenting these so that we get the required result. Right. Now we also need to create one HTML file, let's say with the name menu items 1.html, so that now we can pass this menu items 1.html within the views.py file, menu items 1.html. Now since we want that these items are clickable, so for this we will have to make them as hyperlinks. So let's come to menu items.html. Let's first of all create these item names as clickable elements. So let's add an anchor tag. So it must come within the anchor tag. Now it is within the anchor tag. Now in order to link with the another web page, we have to use the URL template tag. So we have to use %, use URL, and within this we have to put the name of the path that we have specified here. So that name is inside the URL, it's menu items 1. So we will be using this within menu items.html. Now once we have specified this, we will also be using the parameter. Now inside the URL we are also using the parameter as item. Same parameter must be passed here. So I'll be writing item equals to item.name, since we want the name of the item as the parameter once we pass the parameter in the URL. So we want the name of the item to be passed as the parameter in the URL. Now let's check once that if we are clicking on these items, does it work or not? So let's say if I'm clicking on noodles, it shows server error because our template is not yet prepared. But if you check in the URL, inside the URL, you will be able to see the last parameter as the noodles, as whatever you are clicking. So means that parameter is being passed in your URL, but our page is not yet rendered. Now let's write something inside menu items1.html. I'll simply copy this code inside menu items.html and paste it within menu items1.html. So right now what I am going to do, I will be deleting the code that is not required right now. For now, let's say if I am deleting this. Now what all I need is, I need to simply check if my item is existing. So I'll be checking only that, only if item, and within this, let's say I'll be using tr tag and td. That is up to you if you want to use or not. It's not required at this point, but since we are using the table, so that's why I'm using it. Item dot details. So it will show us the complete detail of that specific item. From where this detail will be coming? It will be coming from this key which is inside the dictionary, further which is inside the complete list. Okay, so that part will be shown over here. Now finally we also have to end if. We have to use end if. Now the next part is that within views.py we also have to pass the parameter within the function, and that is the item itself. Now let's check for the functionality. So let's see, we are going to refresh, and if I click on, let's say, momos, I'm getting the details for momos. Similarly, if you click on juice, you will be getting the details for the juice, and so on. So if you want, you can also create a back button here so that the user is able to go back to the previous page, that is this one, and further can navigate through other items. So this is all about template inheritance. Hope you liked this lecture. In the upcoming lecture, we are going to start with forms in Django.